again. My name is Chinmay. I'm going to be the host for this meetup. I'm based in Munich in Germany. This is our meetup group, which we started in 2019 in during October and November when we had good times. We didn't have COVID-19, and those events were in-person events. So we used to actually meet people. We used to say hello and we used to have fun face to face, organize some quiz at the sessions, have some good food and drinks. We hope that the time comes soon. Okay, then when we can have these in-person meetups and you can get to meet other people. And okay, so let's start off with this meetup. So this is what normal looked like when we used to have the in-person meetups. This was organized in the Salesforce office in Munich, in Germany. We had this was, I think, our first meetup. We had a lot of participants, and we're talking about some new features coming in the MuleSoft platform. Hope we get to click more pictures like this when we and the situation is normal very soon. Okay. Now we just for the sake of other participants who have registered and didn't join, we are going to start the recording, and this will be available when if later on you want to look at something, you want to revisit this meetup, you can go and look at the recording. So now I just allow everyone just to spend a couple of minutes reading the safe harbor statement, which we usually do at the meetup, and then we kickstart with the agenda. Okay, cool. So going on to the next one, like we said, a couple of things to be aware of. So if you have slow network, please do not worry. Just need to revisit the meetup page and refresh the screen, or maybe just click on the join event link back again, and you should be able to join. This meetup is currently organized in a webinar mode. So if you have any questions, or you want to, or let's say you want to chat with someone, you can use the on the right hand side of the screen. You can see there is a chat option. You can chat when you want to send a chat to everyone. If you want to send some DMs, you can click on the DM section in the chat, and if you have any specific questions for anyone during the presentation or during the Q&A session, there is a Q&A tab as well in the chat. So please leverage that chat, and you can ask your questions. Okay. Um, in the end, we will turn on our camera. I'll make everyone the presenter. So currently we are in webinar mode. During the end of the presentation, I'll make everyone as the presenter, where we can do some networking, and then we can click some screenshot and pictures, and then have some networking and chatting amongst us. Also, this meetup is recorded, as I had already explained. So if later, after the meetup, this whole recording will be available in the same meetup link. So you should be able to see it latest by tomorrow. Okay. Okay. So what's the agenda? We have our introduction. So we'll start with a few introductions. We have some product updates where I'll be running some product updates. So we had a last meetup, which was part of MuleSoft Summit in Germany in October, but we couldn't cover the product updates then. So we'll be covering the updates between October and November in this meetup. Then we will have a discussion around cloud automation and having infrastructure as a code, where Sashidhar will walk us through the whole, his point of view on infrastructure as a code and other principles. I see Sashi has also joined, so let me just make him as a host. Hi, Sashi. Hope you're able to see us, hear us.
Hey guys, evening.
Hello. Evening. So yeah, as going through the agenda, so yeah, we will have Sashi explaining the cloud automation. I'll let Sashi introduce himself during his own presentation collaboratively. Then we will have some common Q&A sessions. So every topic will have some Q&A. So we'll have some common Q&A sessions, and then we'll have some picture time and some interactive quiz. So during this quiz, we will be selecting the top three winners, and we'll be providing them some training vouchers, and then we'll have wrap up and networking time. Okay, cool. So to start with, so introducing myself shortly again. So Chinmay Sahu, I'm a solution architect with MuleSoft Professional Services in Munich in DACH region. And I'm one of your meetup organizers and the meetup leader for the Munich region. Ganesh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. A very good evening. So myself Ganesh. I'm working as an integration consultant in UTA, which is also in Germany. And yeah,
Shakti?
Hi, hello all. Good evening. I'm Shakti, and I'm working as a senior consultant with Cognizant and working for BMW project. Yeah, I'm one of the organizer for Munich meetup
Cool. Thanks, Shakti.
things.
Sashi, maybe we have elaborate introductions for you during your own presentation.
That would
Uh,
be brilliant.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. So let's start with this with our topics. So first topic is the product update. So between October, November, and somewhat end of September, we had a lots and lots of releases for different features in the product. So I'll be going through some of them. Of course, I didn't cover all of them, but I'll be going through some key releases which has happened there. So the first one, first and foremost, Mule Runtime and AnyPoint Studio. So we had our release for the Mule 4.4. So earlier we used to have Mule 4.3 for a long time and different sets of releases over the last 2 years. Now we have Mule 4.4. It comes up with a lot of cool features. The two key ones which I can currently talk about is in order to have end-to-end traceability, there was some requirement and some cool ideas in our ideas portal to have custom correlation ID or to modify the correlation ID for Mule events. So now with 4.4, you can do that. So you can basically have the correlation ID from an end system and receive that as a request, update the correlation ID, change the correlation ID, and propagate it across various Mule layers and to the end system. So in true sense, now you have uh, you know complete control and regulation on the correlation ID concept. On the logging context, there is a new module which has been added. It's called tracing module that allows you to add, remove, or clear variables. So if in the logging context, let's say you want to add a specific variable that you want to display in the logs, you can definitely do that now. If you want a variable which is already existing, but you want to remove that, you can also add remove variables. So yeah, so this is a new tracing module. And on top of that, there are a few lot of things as well. So there is a release notes. I'm not going to open the release notes for everyone, but once after this meetup, the whole deck, which I'm currently sharing, will be uploaded to the meetup page. So you'll have this deck and you can click on release notes and every other link which is provided and go through the same. Okay, cool. So that was Mule 4.4. We also had Studio 7.11 release. I know Studio.7 Studio is a topic which Christina is currently the expert, but I'll try to rationalize speaking about it. So we have 7.11, which comes with Mule 4.4 support. There was an idea which was posted again and again, and there was a lot of traction on this. So when we want to move between flows or want to see which flow is it currently referenced from in the IDE, so now you can just do by clicking on the flow or the subflow and move on to that flow directly rather than searching for the flow it was called by. So the reference by function allows you to do that on click in the flows and the subflows. Then we have DataWeave 2.4 release, which comes up with lots of features and new functions for you. We have a secure storage. So now, if you have common workspaces which is being used by across a network, you can definitely have secure storage over your IDs and your logins. So that's another cool feature to have. And then you can read about all the other support which is with the new Studio 7.11 release, and you can look at the release notes later on. These are public documentations available online. Cool. So that was about Mule, runtime, and Studio. Now let's talk about another cool feature. So as you know, we have been upgrading the interaction with Exchange. So we have AnyPoint Exchange, which is our feature available on the platform, usually for API cataloging and publishing an asset, which serves as a key driver for reusability, for discovery and reuse of APIs and assets and libraries. So what has come up now is we have been upgrading our Exchange API. So in order to connect to Exchange programmatically, there are three different ways to do it. So we have Exchange API, which you can see on the screen. There is AnyPoint command line interface, and there is Maven facade as well. Now, what we added on top of that is when you have an asset in Exchange and you want to have modify your metadata. So metadata as in you want to update the name of the API, you want to update the description, you want to add a new page, you want to add some custom fields where you define, okay, this person is the current owner of the API, or some other custom fields relate anything specific to your organization. Or you want to add categories, which are categories are the means of categorizing an API based on some aspect. Like you want to have rollouts being an aspect. You can have the scope of your line of business as being an aspect. So categories define that. And tags are the quick search parameters. So all of these can now be done, combined in one single API call, and then you can update that metadata. And this is important without needing to create a new asset version or publication. So usually when you're updating an API behavior in any point exchange, it updates the version to one. So if the current version is 1.0.0, with the next publication, it updates to 1.0.1. But because these are the metadata related to that API, so now you can update your metadata for an API without updating the behavior of that API. Okay, so how does it look like? Let's see. So it would look like this. So this is a call command uh, of the request. So this is the request. Now with this request, you have a few things here. So it's a form data which you have to fill it up. So let's say I have a category called as line of business, and my line of business is CRM, and there are certain other line of business and categories existing in the platform. So now you can just select, okay, this line of business is my line of business for this API. You can provide that line of business. You can add some quick search tags here. And then this is, I'm not sure if you're aware of the custom fields feature. It's a really great feature when you want to add some custom fields for certain APIs in your organization, like describing who are the maintainers for this API. You want to provide the Git repo for this API. You want to provide the official release date for this API when it moves to production. So you can provide all of these by creating custom fields. So this was a feature which was synchronized before, but now it's available. You can create those custom fields using this API. And finally, which is a very key aspect, you can now have your documentation. So currently you might be having other tooling and content management systems which are managing your documentation or design of an API. Now you have the opportunity to publish those documentation and about those API design principles and what that API is about, terms and conditions, directly through this single API call. Okay, so this is a single API which basically gives you all sorts of privileges to update the asset metadata without updating the asset version. So what is the benefit of it? I mean, in terms of business benefit, so in your organization, when you have your governance model using CI/CD and other automation processes, this would be a key aspect you can integrate within your governance processes like CI/CD. So when you're publishing an API, or you are going with a continuous integration and deployment strategy, and you have Exchange also included in that, you can readily use this API as a single stop shop to update all the details based on your governance model of your APIs in Exchange. Okay, it's a cool way to govern your API cataloging. Right. So the feature is currently available with with the AnyPoint Exchange API, which would be the RESTful APIs and the AnyPoint command line interface. And I'll be sharing those links. When you have this deck, you can readily go and check these links and look at the release note, explore, and if you need some more information, feel free to contact us later on. Okay. So this was one of the major releases. Then we had another release which is called Async API. So what Async API is? From an event-driven architecture or an evented API perspective, so the evented API support in any point platform is starting with the Async API now. So Async API is if we look at the lifecycle stages, which the AnyPoint platform, as we know that AnyPoint platform supports the full API lifecycle management. So at the moment, with this release of Async API, we have the design and the publish aspect of the API lifecycle available to be used with Async API. So what is an Async API basically? So Async API, you must be aware of specs like RAML and OAS. So the Async API, you use to design your RESTful APIs. Now, when you have asynchronous use cases, you have different queues and other channels and topics. And so usually those integrations do not have high discoverability. We might document it, but if we are using your AnyPoint Exchange as an API marketplace, you lose that visibility because you would only have REST, SOAP, HTTP API, some assets and libraries. Now, with this support, you can create async API specification where you can have you can describe what the channel is about. You can describe the topic, the queue. You can describe what operation does it perform. Is it a publish? Is it a subscribe? And you can define your messaging protocols like MQTT, JMS, AnyPoint MQ. And you can then map those channels to different authentication frameworks and the server related details. So as in RESTful APIs, when we define the RAML recommendations, when we have securities schemes, trades, we have versioning and everything in place. Now you would have the same thing for asynchronous use cases as well, which is actually a big step, considering that the industry is now moving more towards event-driven integrations. Okay, so this is an absolute new feature. There is a blog post also created some time back about it. You can easily see it when you go to the design center and you want to create a new API. It now adds an additional option of creating an async API. Cool. Okay, now moving on to the next release. So this is also a very cool one, and it was one of the most posted ideas. So earlier we used to have for the logging in to the AnyPoint platform, you used to provide support for SSO with different IDPs. There were cases where the organization being structured from different line of businesses levels, they might have different IDP at different line of businesses or even different teams. So when there is a requirement like this, so in order to incorporate this need for every customer, and whenever there is a need to do this, so MuleSoft has now released a multiple IDP support for SSO. So what this means is, let's say you have two teams or two line of businesses, each of them having a different identity provider like Okta, Ping Federate, or something else. Each of them can have a configuration for logging into the platform through their own SSO protocols. Okay, and then when it comes to team A, so team A logs in with their protocol, team B logs with their own protocol. So you have multiple IDP support at the moment. So which helps you basically with a lot of benefits. So first and foremost, so it's a secure platform. It becomes a secure logging in to the platform. So you enable individual teams to use identity provider for their choice. You ensure and you encourage secure authentication through SSO. Okay, because you are providing them their need of connecting through their own IDP, own choice of IDP. You are ensuring that are encouraging them to create these connections. And if there is a need for migration of users between line of businesses, or this in turn would need migration of user between IDPs, it's a very simple migration process within those IDPs. No changes, absolutely very limited changes in the configuration itself. Okay, so yeah, so major one of those major releases with multiple IDP support for SSO. I've added the release notes here as well and the external identity configurations. If you want to have a look at it, feel free to do it, and you can check this out once you have the deck available for you. Now, the other release, now MuleSoft Composer. So we have already seen Composer, but this Composer is on built on the same principles. But what it's meant to do is it serves as a low code platform for your business analyst or people who are not so much technical in your organization but still want to look at the holistic view of your data. So what this offers, so it offers, it empowers basically your integration applications and teams to integrate different systems and applications with clicks, and you do not have to write the code. So you can initiate those communications or those integrations with clicks and without code, and so you have shorter waiting, shorter development life cycle. I mean, it's basically a non-development life cycle for them. So it's mostly for the business guys who do not have an access to code. Second, it also provides a holistic view of customer in by providing some out-of-the-box connector. There are a few out-of-the-box connectors currently available, which you can directly connect, point and click, select where you want to connect, select what kind of data you want to retrieve, what kind of data you want to process, and you can have that by point and click. Also, this increases productivity. How? So with this automated business processes, so we are creating some design. So there are some design tools and design data which are available in the platform already, in the Composer platform. So you can make, so the business guys now can have a better view of that data, which would then help them to formalize their integration needs in a more granular way, which would then increase the productivity because you have a more clear understanding of your integration requirement. Okay, so this is a great new feature and great new tooling and product which is now available. And again, I've added the documentation and release notes. You can find a lot of information in our public documentation in docs.mulesoft.com. So please don't hesitate to look at those documentation. It's really nice to explore. Okay, I'm almost at the end of the discussion, but maybe there are other releases as well. There is the AnyPoint Runtime Fabric release with version 1.11, and which comes with again a different set of whole new features. So looking at the time, I might not have enough time talking about all of them, just a sneak peek. So again, with AnyPoint monitoring, there is a new dashboarding and mapping and chart approach where you can now see from a specific location, from a specific geography in a geographical map, how many requests or who your consumers are, or how many consumers are consuming your API from a certain geography. And there are multiple accelerators related to healthcare, financial services, retail, and many more, which has been released. So you should be able to see them when you log into your AnyPoint Exchange and find them out, and feel free to explore. Okay, so this was more around the product updates. So I would be taking a few questions if you have any.
I think there is one question, Chinmay. So it is from Sridharan.
Yeah, I think we might need to request access for it. So and you can reach out to your own organization head to reach out to the sales guys in order to see how best you can access it. Okay. Any few more questions? We do have time for questions, so ask away. Yeah. Thanks, Ganesh, for posting these links. So yeah, that's a good idea. So please feel free to look at these links which Ganesh has posted. You can also post the link for the runtime fabric and AnyPoint monitoring if you don't mind. So everyone has these links.
Yeah,
But
sure, I'll do.
so, any more questions, guys, on these product updates? So I'm not explaining every product in detail, but maybe if time permits, we can do that in upcoming meetups and explain some of the topics like Async API or data graph or some other feature like automation using Exchange in detail. Okay, so I do not see any more questions, but if you do have questions, now I'll be handing it over to Sashi. But if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to raise them, and I will be online to answer those questions meanwhile. Okay, so I'll stop sharing my screen. So the next topic which we have is cloud automation. I'll stop sharing now, and the screen is all yours, Sashi.
Thank you, Chinmaya. Let me get the screen working and let me know if you all can see it.
Yes, we can now.
Perfect. Uh, so that's it. So good evening. My name is Sasi Nimani. I am a solutions architect at MuleSoft. And have we got like audience from all over the globe, or is it like predominantly
It's
Europe?
all over the globe. It's
Okay.
all over the globe. Yeah.
Good afternoon and good morning wherever you are. Let me get the clicks working. Perfect. So my name is Sasi Nimani. I am a solutions architect at MuleSoft, based out of London, and joined MuleSoft a year and a half ago. Before that, I worked at AWS, Accenture, and TCS. But I started out as a performance engineer, SRE. So a lot of time, days and nights, I worked on like looking at logs or writing scripts and stuff. So uh, that's my like journey into the professional life, right? I like writing scripts. I don't really sort of like love doing manual tasks. Probably lazy or probably some sort of a mental issue, right? I lose focus when I try to follow something. So that's what I've been trying to do, and I moved into the solution architecture space and was building some architectures on AWS or Google. And when we start out, right, we try to sort of like leverage the UI more and more because it kind of like acts as a comfort net, I would say, because it clearly depicts your user flows and journeys. So it's very easy to navigate a UI. And that's how we tend to start out with most products. But as you get more comfortable with something, you realize that there's probably a CLI client or there's Postman APIs or whatever, right? And then you try to sort of like you start making use of those kind of things. And I just noticed a little while ago, Chinmaya said that there's an API for updating the details around the published asset on Exchange without really incrementing the version. And that stuff you don't really want to use a UI to do it. It's much easier just to sort of like write up a client or a script and then sort of like trigger the API whenever your pipeline executes or when you want to add some more metadata for say your 50, 60 assets you've got on Exchange. So that's a very good use case, right? Nobody wants to be the guy doing it where says update the Git repo on for 60 assets on Exchange. None of us want to do it, even if we get paid for it, right? And this is where automation really sort of like takes the cake. And there's like tons of automation frameworks out there. And earlier it was all about like test automation, right? So when we started out, I mean like 10 years back, Selenium was all craze. And then came other tools, right? And more recently, a few years ago, we had like the craze around like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, and Salt Stack and stuff, which is effectively moving on from test automation, or rather like bringing it forward, right? So when you build your stuff, so to run anything, you need a runtime, you need a server, you need a host, a machine, a VM, a container, whatever you call it, right? But somebody needs to build it. And building one is easy, building two is easy, but suddenly, if you're talking about enterprise, you need to roll out like 50 servers or 50 containers. It's complex. So you write scripts to do it. But suddenly, somebody says, you know what, this password has been compromised, change it. And if you now were to go, if you were the sysadmin guy, and if you were sort of like tasked with changing the password, that's when it starts getting complicated, right? You don't want to be the guy who sort of logs into each of these terminals and updates the password or whatever. And that's where automation again sort of like makes life much easier. But with automation, right, there's some things we might need to be sort of like concerned about, like, or rather, like, we need to put focus on, which is configuration. How do we store it? How do we sort of like ensure that it's all working, and a whole like host of stuff which tends to come with it. And then again, the next thing is I'm doing something. I'll say like I said, right? I moved into the Mule world a year and a half ago, and when I moved to Mule, coming from AWS, the first thing was setting up my. I've set up my laptop, fancy laptop, brilliant, got it, and I've requested for my AnyPoint trial. It was provisioned. Okay, I want to go about building my Mule app. I built my Mule app, deployed it, running fine. Okay, perfect. Now I want. Somebody said, "Have you tried out the DLB?" I said, I have not. And then they said, why don't you try out the DLB and see how it's working? So you get up to speed quicker. I did the DLB, fine, it worked. After some time, I was playing around with something and did some configuration change. The DLB broke, it was no longer working. And being the lazy guy I am, I didn't make notes on how actually what configuration I used for the DLB. So I spent 2 days trying to get the DLB working again. I was like, okay, why can't I have a save button, right? Like similar to video games, where you could just save the state of your machine or your configuration or your deployment and just load it back when you want it or when something doesn't work. And that's where we had that thought, and I just parked it. And then I jumped into my day life, which is like work at different engagements, and I bumped into another guy, and we were just chit chatting, and this idea came up, and he said, why don't we build something, right, which can effectively manage state, or which can allow you to code your infrastructure deployments on Cloud Hub? And that's where this started. So the whole idea was, why don't we use some sort of code or configuration to deploy the Cloud Hub components? And that's the whole crux of it. If you have any questions, put them on the chat, and towards the end, we can probably open it up and run through the questions. Yeah. Going on, right? So it was just me and that guy, and then he said, "This is something which has the potential to be really big, and why don't we get a few more guys involved?" So we said, "Okay." We just asked around and said, "Who's interested in doing something fancy?" And a few guys put up their hands, so we formed a team. And the whole idea of this team is effectively to automate the AnyPoint platform. And then we started looking at like ways to do it, right? As you're aware, like the platform offers the platform API, the Cloud Hub platform API, which allows you to sort of like do platform related tasks like deploying changes or changing configuration of already deployed components using the platform APIs, which are like effectively REST APIs. And then another guy said, why don't we just sort of like put scripts which call the CLI, which use the AnyPoint CLI, and then start invoking the Cloud Hub sort of like actions behind that. And that is coordinating everything. So we spent a lot of time trying in this initial phase, just trying to understand what's the pros and cons of each of these approach. And we also looked around to see if there was something else out there which people are already using, but we couldn't find anything. And that's when we said, okay, you know what? Both of these approaches work really well, but why not take it to the next level and put something like Terraform on top of it, right? And we'll just briefly touch upon Terraform for people who haven't used it, but that was the starting point or the initial sort of like stage of it, which is everybody agreed that let's do Terraform. And Terraform, as you know, is tooling. I'd say it's kind of like a tool which allows you to build infrastructure using configuration files, right? And the way it works is, if you've got a product which has APIs, you could overlay Terraform on top of it. And this Terraform, we call it the provider. It's like your own library which sits on top of your APIs. And what it does, it converts the Terraform commands and orchestrates your API calls behind the scenes. So I've got like Philips Hue lights at home, and If you wanted to, you could write a Terraform provider to control the lights and orchestrate them using scripts or code blocks, right? So we thought that that might be a very good idea given that a lot of enterprises use Terraform. So I've worked at AWS and Accenture, and at both the places I've seen people use Terraform a lot. One, because it's like really flexible, and two, it provides that reliability, right? So the example I had, which is like I broke my own DLB, I built it, but I had no clue how to sort of like do it after 2 weeks. And that's where something like having a repeatable asset, which deploys the same component or infrastructure or server or whatever you call it again and again, without really sort of like me worrying that something has changed, is something we're looking for, right? So the actions are more or less sort of like guaranteed, whereas with a human person and a run work, that doesn't happen. Plus, I could just go ahead and at the click of a button deploy it, or I could have triggers, right, with evented APIs and everything. Or you could even plug it into your CI/CD pipeline, saying that when I deploy with my Mule app, can you go ahead and deploy Q1, Q2, Q3, and some sort of like whatever components that API requires to run. All of this could be orchestrated. So we were thinking about all these fancy ideas, right? But that's when we picked up Terraform, like I said, because it's much easier and cleaner. And then one of the guys said he's worked with Terraform and he's kindly agreed to write a library for Terraform. So let me just share my other screen and show you so how it works, because this is really interesting, right? Let me know if it's all visible. So effectively, what we've got is the AnyPoint sort of like platform APIs, as you're aware. And what we have done is we have created a Postman collection of these libraries, and then we've created a Go client. So the AnyPoint platform APIs can be converted into a client of your choice using the OS client generator app. So it's like pretty straightforward, and Terraform works is kind of like built on top of like Go, and Go is kind of like built on top of like Ruby. So what we've done is like we've created a Go client. So first we were fiddling around, and then we started like using pipelines to generate the Go library. So every time there's an update on the platform API, triggers a chain a event, which then starts generating a new Go module, right? And then we create the AnyPoint Go library. Then we use this Go library to generate the Terraform provider. There's still some manual bits and pieces because what OS generates doesn't really align with the Terraform sort of like standards or the notations. So we still do a little bit of manual work, but that's effectively it, right? So we create the Terraform provider and we put it out there on the Terraform registry. So the Terraform registry is just similar to MuleSoft Exchange, where all the providers can write their Terraform libraries and just publish them over there. And when you write your Terraform sort of like configuration file to create MuleSoft components, all you do is just refer to this AnyPoint component on the Terraform registry. Right, let me go back over here. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? The first immediate idea was reduce the cloud app setup time. A lot of us go out, spend time with customers, and a lot of the times the customers are just starting out, and for them, it's like, okay, what is this component? How do I set it up? Let's set up a working environment. Let me deploy a few APIs and stuff. And the whole idea of this was, okay, let's reduce the setup time. Let's just sort of like spin up something. So it's really quick. Instead of 7 days, it takes 10 minutes. We get something working, and then the customer can go and work on it, right? That's where it started. But then, while talking with some other guys, he said, do you know what's the best way to set up roles? Or how do I set up teams? What's the best team structure? I'm like, why are you asking me? It depends on the project. He said, it does, but sometimes you have best practices, right? That this is the best way to do it. Of course, it changes later, but deleting an additional team or creating a child team is really straightforward. But what we want is a starting point. So the customer is new, they don't know where to start, and Teams is something which was introduced recently by MuleSoft. So have you got a starting point? I said, we don't. But that's when we thought this might be a very good platform to bring in all the best practices from the Mule sort of like Mule world, right? So I've worked on something. So I feed in my learnings into the templates. So I'll come to it in a bit. So what I mean by templates, then say Chinmaya has worked on something with DLBs. He says these are the best practices when you create a DLB or when you start out with DLBs. This is the bare minimum you need to have. So we put Chinmaya's experiences into the templates, and then what we are trying to build is a set of base templates, right? So when somebody starts out and spins up a Cloud Hub environment, by environment I mean the whole sort of like Cloud Hub sort of like setup, not just any point environment. What it does is it spins it up in 10 minutes, and it also brings forth all the experiences and the best practices which all of these consultants would have done or would have created if they would have deployed this. And if Chinmaya would have deployed this, he might have created like the DLBs in a very good, very well fashioned sort of like manner, but he might have missed out on teams because he's probably not worked on it. I'm not saying you haven't done it, Chinmaya, but it's just an example, right? And someone else has done teams very well, and if he were to do it, he would have done it in a first-class manner. And what we are trying to do is like get all of their experiences bundled up into the templates, right? And then hand it over. And like I said, Terraform is extendable. So if you think that this template needs slight modifications, all you need to do is like create probably a copy of the template, store it in Git, version it, and make your own changes and run it. And this way, if you were to build a new environment or a new sort of like, if you onboard new devs and you want to give them their own playground, what you could do is like run the template in their environment. All the devs have the same sort of like starting point without, really wasting time trying to figure out how something is working or why something is not working. So it just standardizes everything, right? And then moving on, this is our automation roadmap, right? So this is something which we started a few months ago with a small team, and we have really sort of like high ideals. We want to be somewhere. So we started with a prototype, and we did this, and we've created like a few resources. So Terraform works on a resource model. So like I said, if you have APIs, you could put a Terraform library layer on top of it. And the way it works is it just understands that there is a resource. So you define the resources in the Terraform library, and each resource has the CRUD actions against it, right? So you have a create, delete, or a read, or a write, and stuff like that. And what Terraform does is it creates that layer on top of it, a wrapper. And then you start using the wrapper to tell Terraform how to orchestrate the resources behind the scenes. And this orchestration is written in a file, either JSON or a YAML or whatever you want. Right. So when we started out, we just wanted to try it out, look at like how everybody would receive it or what's the feedback like. So we started out with organization, environment, roles, and permissions. And then we started sort of like trying to put together an MVP because we've had a few customers asking about it. So we put together an MVP, which is effectively like we've added teams. So this is where Teams was introduced, and you might have seen when you log in, like try new features on the left-hand side of access management, and that's Teams. And it's kind of like replacing roles and permissions. So we put in Teams, and release one, we are trying to sort of like roll out more and more. So we're kind of like between MVP and release one. So, and again, like this is sort of like maintained and built by all of us, a few of us. So if you have time, we just add one more resource, test it out, and add it to the library. So it works on that model. So we're a little bit slow moving ahead with the releases. Yeah, and coming to the objectives, right? We've kind of like touched upon it, but I'll come to the second point, which is like how to make it a community project. So I'll touch upon that once we go through the demo. And this is again something we touched upon, right? We've got the resources on the left-hand side, whatever product you've got, MuleSoft or whatever, like your Raspberry Pi, as long as it has APIs and some sort of like basic CRUD methods associated with it in the form of like APIs, you could put together a Terraform provider library and then sort of like make use of the library to orchestrate these calls, right? And this is the same stuff which I showed you a little ago. So everything is like in Go, called the MuleSoft APIs. The provider sort of like orchestrates this, and the Terraform core just provides the scaffolding or bootstraps your provider library. Yeah, this is the interesting bit, right? So I always love this bit, but this time I didn't really have the time to test out my demo. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works. So what I've got in front, or rather I had in front, is my account. Yeah, so this is my AnyPoint sort of like platform. I've logged in, and I'll just show you quickly. So I've got a couple of business groups similar to all of us, not really a action environment or anything which serves anything except for me to play around, right? So I'm not using roles anymore, so I'm using teams. So I've got a few teams. I've got community users because I use the AnyPoint Community Manager. I've got the devs. I've got the org admins, and I've got one more business group, right, which I'm a member of. I didn't know that. Yeah, but if I go into this developers business group, I've got a few, okay, which is perfect. Fine. So this is all good. So let's go into business groups, and I've got two of them over here, and then I've got a few environments, right? So this is what I've got. Now, for me to test something out, which we were doing at the customers, I need to create three more business groups, four more environments, and I want to move some APIs using CI/CD pipelines or some automation from one environment to other in different business groups, right? And I was fiddling around with that for a while, and it was just getting like too complex because I was building something, it wasn't working. I'm not sure if it was my pipeline which was not working or the environment stuff. Yeah, whatever, right? So now what I want to do is I want to create some more resources over here. So I want to create two new business groups. I want to create some teams. I want to create some environments in these business groups, and I want to associate some permissions with these teams, right? So what I've got is, so am I on the right window? Is that still visible, or do I need to sort of like increase the font size over here?
If you could, that would be great. It's a bit small.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, so I've got this, and what I've got is like, let me show you this bit. Okay, probably got it too big. Yeah. What I've got is I've got a few templates, right? Each of these folders is a template. So a template is essentially a collection of resources I want to create, right? So if I go into my MVP folder, I've got some files. Ignore all of them. Just look at this CSV, right? So in CSV, I've got a few files. So I've just got it over here, so it's easy. But in my CSV, I've got the resource definitions of the resources I want to create. So this is effectively me telling, okay, you know what? I want some business groups. This is the definition of my business group. So I want the name of the business group to be MaxBG. I want the owner to be this user. Yeah, I want to create suborgs permission. Yeah, create environments true, global deployment true. And I'm also sort of like providing the associated attributes when you create a business group, right? So when you create a business group using the UI, you provide all of this information. I'm doing the exact same stuff, right? So I'm saying like giving the breakdown of like whatever entitlements I have. I'm providing that. I'm saying okay, give it like one VPC of over here 0 because I haven't got any entitlements left. Load balancers, VPNs, and stuff. And then I'm going into environments and I'm saying, can you create these environments for me? And these environments should be associated with so and so business group, right? And then I'm going into teams and saying, create three teams, platform admins, MaxBG and MaxiBG, and then have the roles, which is members, which is effectively take this guy and make him a member of so and so team. Then I have the roles. So every team should have at least one role, And what I'm doing is like I'm associating a few roles with the teams. And then you have like level 1 teams and level 2 teams, because it's kind of like a nested structure if you've seen teams. And I'm doing the same with the level 2 stuff, right? So this is my resource definition. And then what I've got outside over here, right? So it's the same stuff over here, but if I list everything, what I've got over here is a few extra TF files. So these are the Terraform sort of like provider files, right? Or the script file. So if I just open up one of them, yeah, it's simply the library and stuff, right? You don't have to sort of like understand all of this, but it's like really sort of like simple stuff. And what I'll do now is like it's as simple as just sort of like saying that, okay, you know what? I want to create these resources. So let's just do a Terraform apply. So, okay, the first thing I want to check is I want to check my log level. So it's set to debug, which means we'll have a lot of sort of like logs written, which we don't want over here. Let me just set it to info. The TF log is an environment variable which controls how much what level of logs you see when you run the provider. And all I need to do is like Terraform apply and pass the variable file, which is, so I've got the params.tf_bars.json, which is simply the core parameters associated with my AnyPoint org. I can't show it because I've got my AnyPoint password in there, but all it has is the username, the password of the AnyPoint org, the AnyPoint organization ID, the master team ID. So every org has a master team. So when you log into your AnyPoint and you see there's a top level team. So for me, it's like everyone at MuleSoft. For you, it might be something else, but it's that ID and the control plane region. That's it. Sorry, my bad. Haven't copied it properly. Yeah, and when I do apply, right, what it does is it checks everything. Okay, that's, yeah. So if you look at it over here, right, so this is again standard Terraform. So if you ignore the logs, because the logs are like just related to our provider. So what Terraform does is it gives you that nice view saying that there's too many resources, right? So if you look at this, what it'll say is like uh, level 2 team roles will be created, and it says like what is available afterwards and what's available beforehand. So what Terraform does is it sort of like tries to build that view of if somebody were to create this configuration, what would the state look like? So it builds that state. So in its essence, Terraform is a huge state machine, right? It just tracks state and then it sort of like works on the back of that state. So what it is saying is that according to the plan, there are 31 resources to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. What it's saying is like Terraform will provide the perform the actions described above, which is these ones. So it'll say that, okay, this will be created, this will be created. And if you look above, it says data AnyPoint BG business group will be read during apply. And this is for the environments, because to create the environment, it needs to get the details of the business group. So that's what it's doing. So it is trying to get the details of that business group, and then once it has it, then it will create the environments. So it understands the whole flow, right? And when I type yes over here, it'll just go ahead and start creating these resources in the background. So it should take probably just a few seconds because we haven't got a lot of resources over here. Hopefully it works because I haven't done it today. Yeah, it's done 31, 0 change, 0 destroyed. And now if we go back to our other window, this is the problem, right? I always lose windows. AnyPoint platform. Yeah, So this was before we ran the script, and now if we go back, yeah, you see max BG, maxi BG, and if I click on it, I've got like environments which we've defined over there: design, dev, prod, QA, sandbox, everything we've defined. So in the teams, we didn't have so much stuff, right? Whereas if you do it over here, you've got like tons of stuff over here now. We've got max BG, which has like BG consumers, all of this, which I didn't have, and I don't want all of this, but it's still there, right? So it's as simple as that. And now, if you want to add one more business group, right? So I like business groups because it's like straightforward. So if you want to add one more business group, all I could do is like if I had this in Git, I'll just sort of like create a branch of it and like make the change and commit it, and I'll just say new meetup, right? Everything else I'll leave it the same. And what I need to do is just sort of like run the Terraform apply command again. And over here, we're running it in a different mode. So over here, I'm always forcing it to sort of like create the resources again. So it's saying that it forces replacement. So I could change the mode in my provider library to provide that option, whether I want to replace it or whether I want to ignore it if the resource exists. For now, I'll just say yes. Yeah. And what it'll do is it'll just go ahead and add that extra business group, whatever we defined in the file, right? Okay, is there a problem? It says there's something, but I don't know if that's... Yeah, okay, it worked. So if we go back to AnyPoint and go back to our business groups, refresh, hopefully it worked. Yeah, the Mule Meetup business group. It's over here with the environments of 2 and the total recourse of 4. If I click on it, I won't have any environments except design and sandbox, which are the standard, because I haven't defined any of the other environments or anything else. Yeah, it's as simple as that, right? And now if I just go back to my terminal, okay, I've created all of this, but you know what? After the meetup, right? I don't really want all of this because last time when I created all the stuff manually, it took me 2 hours to delete everything and get my platform, my account clean. So all I'd say is like delete, Terraform, destroy, right? And I'll just go ahead, remove everything it's created using that set of resources. Yes, it's asking me for a prompt because I don't have the auto approve. And we'll just leave that to do it, and we'll just go back to the AnyPoint platform. And that's done. And if we go back to the platform, right, and if we just go to business groups again, we've got all 3. It's taking forever to do. And it's signing out for some reason. Yeah, it's gone. It's disappeared. If you go to our teams, it's disappeared. And the question is like, how does it know what to delete and what to sort of like keep? Because if you look at the AnyPoint, it still kept my business groups. I didn't touch them. Yes. So like I said, Terraform is a giant state machine. And for those of you who are not sort of like familiar with state machines essentially do a set of actions or tasks. But what they tend to do is like they keep state of like what was before step 1 was done and what is the state after step 1 and so on. So they build that huge sort of like profile of how something has changed over time when a sequence of activities were performed on it. So there's the sort of like Terraform state. So if I just open it up, so it's got nothing over here. But if I go, because we have destroyed it, so it's just removed the state. But if I go to the backup, so it has a complete sort of like history of what it has done, right? So if I want to understand who's done something or who's deleted a resource, or if I want to use it for audit logs, I can just sort of like dump all my sort of like Terraform backups or state files into some sort of like aggregation tool like Splunk, and over there you could just sort of like visualize your whole thing as to like have your resource profile changed over time, which gives you on the top, I'm just thinking out loud, right, which gives you that very neat sort of like view of how you're building your BGs, or how frequently you're doing certain things, and what's happening with your sort of like the state of your environment, right? And this is something which is sort of like really cool. And if I want to replicate that, I could just sort of like go back to the state file and sort of like to find out as to like what's my last executed sort of like sequence of actions, and just repeat them. And if I were to create something and delete that state file, and if I want to destroy, Terraform would crash, because it would always look to the state file to understand as to like what's happened. Any questions? That's pretty much it, right? That's the demo.
I mean, I have a bunch of questions, but I'll let everyone in the group first ask their questions. So I see has posted a chat here. So Shashi, if you want to have a look at it.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, it's interesting to know MuleSoft is finally going in this direction. Yes, I felt the same when I joined. I was honestly right. MuleSoft is a big product. It's been in the market for so long. Why don't they have a Terraform provider? So yes, and yeah, we are trying to sort of like get the product backing. So we are having conversations with the product team and everyone, and we are trying to sort of like get to a stage where, it's like officially backed. So right now it's just a community effort, or MuleSoft internal community effort, but we are trying to sort of like launch it out there as a product. Yeah. Okay. This is good, right? You said you're not using Cloud Hub anymore, which is, and that you're moving, setting up RTF on AWS. Yeah, and this is something we've got on our backlog, right? So when I again, like when I joined MuleSoft, I was fiddling around with Cloud Hub trying to build RTF, and I couldn't get RTF working. I tried it on AWS, I couldn't get it working. So I was like, is there a way to tell Cloud Hub to deploy a RTF cluster for me if I provide the hosts? And everybody said no, you need to do it manually. So I just added this to the backlog, which is, if I do something in Cloud Hub, I want to be able to create that TF state, and I want to repeat the same set of actions in RTF. And the reason I said is because one of my previous clients, right, they're a financial services client, and according to regulation, they need to have one sort of like environment, or their main sort of like business environment, or the business applications in at least two different cloud providers, or at least like two independent data centers, right? Cloud Hub runs on AWS. According to the regulation, they needed something in a different data center of their own, or run like the Mule sort of like applications, at least to sustain that minimum sort of like requirements in either Azure or GCP. And this is where I thought, okay, you might, it makes sense to be able to sort of like build that capability where I could say, okay, I've done this on Cloud Hub, let me point it to RTF running somewhere else and just build the same resources. So I agree with you, and it's on the backlog. Hopefully it'll see the day of light someday soon. And the backlog is like pretty big. So so we're just trying to sort of like groom it and try to build as much as possible. The next question, I hope that answers your question. The next question, from end client point of view, what would be a good use case for Terraform automation? So as of today, right, as of today, this is geared towards like new users of the platform. And the whole idea of having something like this is to ensure that everybody, like you guys as MuleSoft architects, developers, we as MuleSoft consultants, all of us spend more time. Sorry, bear with me. I need to switch on the light. The kid just switched it off. Sorry, this is what you have when you have kids running around in the house. But yeah, this whole idea is like when you talk to your customer, right, you'd rather want to understand their requirements, work with them to achieve their strategy or their objectives, rather than trying to sort of like set up environments or infrastructure or something, VPCs or anything of that sort. You want to spend as little time doing this sort of activities and spend the bulk of your time trying to work with the customer to align with their strategy. And that's our first objective, right? So we want to roll this out to all the consultants and the new customers and just speed up that initial process of like just getting over with. So we want to sort of like work towards business goals, not really set up environments and stuff. So this is bridging the gap. At least that's the first phase we are trying to target. And the later stages, like I want to sort of like uh, put it as a part of pipelines where in order for me to sort of like just build a new play environment or a new environment or whatever, I want to be able to do it as a part of like one click rather than have to do it manually. And I also want to sort of like bring in the best practices, right? At the moment, it's just sort of like bits and pieces everywhere. But like I said, we want to be able to leverage the experience and then build it. And at later stages, it would be sort of like rolled out to different sort of like deployment models like RTF, or we're also looking at extracting the state of a platform and then deploying it somewhere else, which is like, okay, give me everything I've got in Cloud Hub, build a state file for that or the script for that and create the resources. And then if I want to replicate my exact setup somewhere else with some minor changes, we're trying to get the tool to do that, which isn't like pure Terraform, but we're just trying to sort of like build that pipeline. But all of these are in the backlog. Yeah, and if those are all the questions, I've got a few more slides, right? So this is the interesting bit. So we've got this tool and stuff, right? And we've seen the demo. But what happens next is, so right now it's sort of like backed by just a few developers within MuleSoft. We just sort of like whenever we've got time, we come together and sort of like build it. What we want to do is like we want to open source it. So it is on GitHub. And as you saw, the library is on Terraform sort of like registry. So the provider is over here. And if you want to link to the source code, it's over here, right? So it's on GitHub. Only thing we're trying to do is like, we want everybody to contribute to it. So what we're trying to do is like get the Salesforce backing to bring it under the Salesforce open source umbrella. So that's what we're trying to do right now. And unfortunately, we've got some internal support Slack channels and stuff, which are not accessible to the outside community. So if anybody is interested in sort of like contributing to this, or if you want to get in touch for more details, or if you want to understand more, you could always sort of like reach out to me or Chinmaya or anyone from MuleSoft, and we'd sort of like put you in touch with the right people to be able to sort of like get more insight or whatever you want to do with this product, right? And it's all out there, like I said, it's like, so the easiest way is to go to the Terraform registry and just search for AnyPoint, and from there you get access to the source code. That's pretty much it from my side. I think we are well ahead of time, Chinmaya. Is that like?
Awesome. I do have a few more questions if you don't mind. So, so when we're talking about Terraform, I mean, we do store the state of it, and we have the option of reverting it back. And as you said, so it's more useful for customers who are starting new with the AnyPoint platform, or they want to create something new at the moment. But can we do this activity? So let's say because we also want to have some governance, okay? I know it's fun creating the whole infrastructure and creating business group and everything, but there is also a discussion around when to create a business group. Is it absolutely necessary to create a business group? Because there are limits to a certain number of business group per organization per tenant. And we want the customers also to be aware of the rationale when to create it. Do they need to create it based on line of businesses? And to promote, the idea would be to not promote isolation by creating business group, but also to have, on the other hand, have more reusability of the platform, like grouping, a certain line of business or departments. So let's say we have a business group, but and then the next, and that is something, let's say we want, a customer wants to follow a certain, I don't know, a release management process to create a business group, let's say, and they have provisioned certain infrastructure and like VPCs and DLBs. Then the next step is okay, creating some environment and a role. So can we, if I already have a business group, can I use just the part of the code which is creating environment and teams and connecting the environment to certain teams, just that part of the code, or maybe just let's say I already have the teams, or I already have the environment. I just want to create the roles and permissions. Can I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good you mentioned it. I haven't tried it out, but if you guys are okay, we could probably do that.
Yeah, let's do that. There's
Yeah,
no harm in it.
it should be straightforward, right? So I haven't done it, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it can be done. So let's just, so I'll just leave these three over here, but let's just pick out one of my existing business groups, right? So
I hope that's okay with you and you don't screw up your
that's
existing one.
no, it's perfectly fine. So I've got this test business group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and all I need to do, and if I want to create some environments on the test, right? So test, and just say QA, and just say Meetup, uh, Meetup, right?
Hmm.
So this one, so just create. So I'll leave the other
I
business
think
groups over
type
here.
needs to be, I think the type would need to be sandbox or production
Sorry.
because it's an environment type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my bad. Don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah. So I'll just leave it. So this is the
Mhm.
business code name test, and we are creating the environment QA under it. Hopefully we don't have that. Okay, or I can't click on that because that's one of the problems I've got, right? Okay, let's do something simple. Let's create a Meetup business group. Yeah. And, yeah, and let's see if we can have. Let's leave all of that as it is. We don't care at the moment. Yeah, so we created this Meetup business group using the UI. So what I want to do is like I've got the test, which is the environment. Sorry, Reggie. So yeah,
Yep.
Meetup is the business group name, QA is the name of the environment, and sandbox, right? So
Yep.
on the test, we haven't got any environments except like design and sandbox. Now if I go to build these, I'll just leave this as it is, and if I run the Terraform apply, we should just go ahead and create it.
Hmm.
Said it shouldn't touch anything existing because that's the way it works. The existing resource will not be in the state file. So even if you delete the stack, okay, unable to create business groups. Is it because of the meetup now? Let's see first what's happening, right? So let's check if the environment has been created first. No. And if we go back to business groups, so it's tried creating, okay, if I
So
just,
I think you already
yeah,
created a Meetup business group. So maybe you can name it differently.
yeah, I'll just remove it, right? The man is really, yeah. I'll just remove it, and what I'll do is I'll do a Terraform apply again. And that's one of the things, right? The whole point of Terraform is it's idempotent. So if you run the same action again, if it's there, and over here we've got the folks to replace, so it just replaces it. If not,
Hmm.
it'll just ignore it. Okay, what's the problem now? So it says that the input object has no parameter. Got it right, right?
Yeah. Can you go to the settings maybe?
Yeah, it shouldn't be everything in the settings. Settings should be fine. Because I've ticked everything. So this is
Okay.
one of the things, right? Since I haven't
Hmm.
tried it, do I need to provide design repos? Unlikely, right? To create environments. I don't know.
Maybe add some sandbox repos. Oh, those are still there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So let me just see. So business groups, it's fine. Environments, I've got one that says Meetup and QA and Sandbox. Teams. Do I need a team for an environment to be there?
I think there. Can you go back? I think Julian has got it. So there is a Meetup, M in caps and everything in small. Can you check what's the name of this organization? Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just checking if I need a team. Do I need a team? No, I don't think so. I need a team. Uh, Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they need a team, right? Because a lot of these things are linked together. So this is where we just want to sort of like uh, roll it out just to the new audience now, because you see stuff like this, right? Where once you have something, it really becomes complicated to associate the existing and hook it up into the new resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is level one team role, so we need to create the level one team. So I'll just go over here and say, this is the meetup team. And, yeah. Um, let's just sort of like replicate this. I don't think I need a member. Let's just try it out once more. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just destroy. Remove everything. Hopefully I saved it. Yeah, I've saved everything. Yes, destroy it. Because this is still under development, you still need to sort of like put in a load of testing and stuff. That's what we are trying to do. The testing part is taking more time than the actual sort of like putting together the Terraform library.
Absolutely, I can understand. I think it becomes easier when we have a larger community or when we roll it out to the community and get more ideas.
Yeah. Okay, it says now it's a difference. So input my parameter has no object meetup in the environments. That's strange. One last go, right? After this,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work. So that must be because the meetup. What is the input map? If you can attribute. Hmm. The teams we've got the meetup team that is associated with the meetup. Here, and let's just add one more panel. That's all. If it doesn't work, I just leave it.
That's absolutely not an issue. We're trying to do something on the fly. Okay, that's absolutely acceptable.
And like I said, I haven't tried it out, and this template is in the standard template. I've taken the MVP one and I've sort of like fiddled around with it. So now I'm missing something. It's either over here or somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. That's not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. So don't go by my script. It's absolutely like it's absolutely fine. You should be able to add resources over here under the existing resources, because if you look at the team stuff, right? If you look at the teams, this meetup team is being created. This platform admin is being created. The Max BG is created, and this is created, and this is created under community users, which is my custom team. So this is the team I created just for AnyPoint Community Manager. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at those team resources, they are created under an existing resource. So it absolutely works. I'm sorry for the background noise. My
It's
apologies.
it's absolutely fine.
Everybody in my
Proceed.
home except me, they talk very loudly. So our house is very small, but I don't know why everybody feels the need to sort of like shout, even the baby. But yeah, now it clears out everything. So I won't be able to sleep today unless I figure out why it's not correct.
Yeah, now you got a bug in your mind, right?
Yeah. But it's if you see this now, right? It's taken off the everything under the community user. So it was creating a meetup team,
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's just not able to create the environments. I don't know if it's a permissions thing or something else. But
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much it from my side.
Cool. Thanks so much, Sashi. So yeah, I had those questions. Maybe we can take other questions offline, but I think everyone gets the idea. And as Sashi said, so it's for everyone. If anyone needs to connect with us, you can reach out to Sashi directly, or you can reach out to me, and we'll basically get in touch, make you get in touch with the right people if you want to understand more or have some cool ideas to contribute to this. So yeah, it was really nice, and thanks Sashi for being so brave to take ad hoc requests and run it on the script.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, I'd say. And yeah, don't hesitate. Feel free to connect with any of us. And like I said, it's an open source community product project, which is where we are going to roll it out like full-fledged open source. So just fork the repo, do what you want, try it out. I always see
Awesome.
your feedback.
Cool, thanks so much again. Okay, I will take the screen share back now. Give me a sec. And here you go. Shakti, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so we got like 5 more minutes. If anyone has any specific question to this, we can take some questions. But if we don't see any questions in the next 1 minute, we will move to the next thing in the agenda. So, anyone has any generic question or wants to discuss something, please feel free to put it on the chat. Any questions from me or Sashi? Okay. Cool. Maybe let's move on to the next part. I would basically start handing it over to Ganesh now. Ganesh, if you can share the screen. So what we have now would be an interactive quiz. So this was the end of our presentation for this meetup about the actual content, like the product updates and the cloud automation. But we do have some more slides now, if for the quiz round, for the feedback, and of course we would have some time for networking and picture time. So do stay tuned. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow Ganesh to basically start with the quiz and the feedback round. Over to you, Ganesh.
Yeah, sure. So like we'll start with the feedback. So please log into menti.com and I can just start filling the code 37805929 so that we can just collect few
Yeah.
feedbacks about this meetup and also the topics for the next meetup that we'll be conducting soon.
So please everyone, if you could log into menti.com and you use this code 37805929. So we have 28 attendees, at least when we see like 20 attendees or 15 attendees, and you can feel free to add any topic. So these would be the topics which you would like to see in the upcoming meetups, which mostly would be next year. As our meetup says, it's winter meetup, and I don't know why we didn't call it as a pre-Christmas meetup. But yeah, so hopefully we'll be seeing everyone again in the next year, and we would try to focus on these topics which you want to see now. Okay.
Okay.
If there is any other topics as well, could you please also, you can feel free to add those topics in the chat. So Julian, if you find sufficient information to be shared across a next meetup, would of course like to talk about this topic. Thanks for the
Cool.
proposal, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
we
So
can
we
move on
want
to
to
the next
see
slide. Yeah.
async API and error handling in API led, of course. So we'll try to make that happen in the next year, starting next year. Okay. So move on to the next one, Ganesh. Okay, so if you could please provide a few feedback about how this meetup went. Did you like this meetup? What you liked in this meetup? Maybe a single word, a phrase, anything that would really help us out. Good
Yeah.
experience,
Very
interesting.
positive comments. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, of course, it was a nice live demo, and I thank Shashi for being brave enough for ad hoc requests as well. And good luck with the bug in your mind, Shashi. Great, that's awesome. Good experience, great work, cool Terraform, definitely cool. Okay, cool. Okay, that's mostly it. If anyone has any last comments before we close this up, thanks everyone for the really great feedback, and we'll try to try improving ourselves and adding even more interesting topics. But also, we provide an opportunity for you guys, you in the community, if you would like to share your integration experience in MuleSoft or in general any integration patterns or design patterns which you'd like to share with the community, all you need is to just reach out to us. Okay, cool. Now, Ganesh, can we move on to the quiz round?
Yeah. So everyone, please use your actual name. So instead of some fancy
Yes.
names, so that
Okay, so for this quiz round, we will also be logging into Menti, but please do use your full names. And for those winners at the end, when we have the top 3 winners, please also share your email address at the end. Okay, for only for the winners. So please log into menti.com and the code is 24930154. There is no ground rules. The only rule is as fast as you answer, you get more points. So answer fast to get score more points. And the top 3 winners will be getting 3 training vouchers from MuleSoft, and we'll be sharing with them mostly during this week. So Julian, when you log into menti.com and add this code, then the next prompt should be for your name. But if you don't see that, maybe you can log in, you can open it in some incognito, or maybe clear the cookies, so that when you're logging into menti.com, you can add your name. And if you're adding some fancy name, that's absolutely fine. But just if you are the winners in the end, do let us know your actual names. So based on past experience, we have had some fancy names, but we didn't get the actual names or the email address, and they have missed the opportunity for receiving some vouchers. Okay. Can't see the name option in the incognito. So have you tried using menti.com? And can you, yeah, so do this. So close all the browsers, open your browsers again, type menti.com and add the code again. And after adding the code, then it will prompt you to your name. Okay, so maybe let's start off with this event. Okay, let's start off with the quiz. You can, let's see, I mean, you would be having some default names. Maybe you would have used Menti before as well. And we would try to track whoever is participating and whoever are the winners. If you don't have the right names, you can type those names at the end of the quiz event. Okay,
yeah.
cool. So now we have 22 participants. So maybe we can try. Awesome. So, guys, again, there's just one rule: answer fast to win more points. All the best.
Yeah, so let's get into our first question.
So this was right in the slide which I was demonstrating. So it should be a fairly simple one.
Okay, we have only 3 seconds left. 2, 1, go. And yeah, most of the people are right.
Okay, let's
Cool.
look at the score.
So who's leading?
Someone has given me.
I don't know who HMM is. Probably you need to provide your actual
Name.
name.
Yeah, so we still have 4 more questions, so don't worry. You can
Yeah.
be on the leaderboard.
Yes.
So we'll get into the question number 2, and here it is.
Okay. Which feature enables unifying all the data within an application network in a unified schema?
I think we have 3, 2, 1,
That's it. Okay. Time's up.
and yeah,
Oh.
most of them got it right.
Awesome.
Cool.
Now let's see the leaderboard again.
So who is on top? Nice.
Good.
Cool. I'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so you still have 3 more questions to redeem yourself. So please get ready to answer as fast as you can. Which is not an available characteristic or an attribute in AnyPoint Exchange. Come on, guys, 9 more seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, and most of them got it right.
Cool.
So let's see who's leading now. Okay.
So we have Hassan. We don't know whom is, but maybe if you could, after this event, if you are the
Post your
winner,
name
let
on
us know.
chat if possible.
Yeah. Okay, next question, please.
The next one, yeah.
So just 2 more questions, guys. All the best.
Yes.
What is the correct data wave function that can invoke a flow and subflow in this data wave snippet? If you see on line number 3, that's where the function goes. So which one is that function?
Okay. So most of them got it right.
We have real experience, Mule enthusiasts in this call. Okay, now we might see some. Oh, we see a shift in the leaderboard now.
Yeah.
So we have Bhupendra, who is at the top, then Srini, and then Okay, let's go. So this is the last question. So all the best, guys. Try harder. So which of the following is not a processing type in Mule for runtime? Six seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And Yeah, most of them are right. So
Awesome. Now
let's see who's
see
on
who the
top.
winner is.
Okay, it's
Okay.
Bhupendra.
Bhupendra, Srini, and
Mm.
HMM. So, okay. So, guys, first things first, if you could just add your email address for everyone, that would be really great in the chat. Cool.
Shashi,
Thank you.
then
Was it Sashi?
I didn't know if I could play or not, so I didn't put my name, but yeah, you just count me out.
That's absolutely fine. So we will consider based on the same. Okay, Sashi, don't worry about it.
Srini, can you post your email ID as well, please?
So it would be Srini, it would be Bhupendra. So who do we see in the fourth position, Ganesh?
Prashant.
Prashant.
Okay, Prashant Sai Kumar. So Prashant Sai Kumar, if you could post your email address as well. And Sashi, you of course get something, but not from out of this quiz, okay? Cool. Okay. Uh, Thank you all, and congratulations all the winners. We will be getting in touch with you. So, Ganesh or Shakti, if you could just note down those email addresses, that would be useful. And you would be receiving some emails from us and getting some new exciting training vouchers. Okay. Cool. Now the last part, we are almost at the end of this meetup. Okay, if I could just share my screen again, Ganesh.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a minute.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so here it is. We have a screen share. Right. So thank you everyone for joining this meetup. Now, right after this, we will be making everyone as the host. But before that, if you have any feedback, you want to present something in the next meetup, or you want to have you want to reach out to some of us, like to know more about cloud automation, feel free to reach out to us. You can find us in LinkedIn, and your meetup recordings will be available in the event page. We also have a YouTube channel called MuleSoft Meetup Munich. You can also see the recordings there, maybe later this week. And please feel free to tweet some pictures. So we have clicked some pictures already, so feel free to do that. Okay, Shakti, if you and Ganesh, just one more second before we start making everyone presenters. So okay, word of cautions for everyone. Please, if you're now, since we are making you as hosts, so we want everyone to turn on their video so we can see, say hello, and have some networking time. But a word of caution: when you're leaving this event, at the bottom of the page you would see a leave button. Please do not click on end event for all. That would end that event and we won't be able to network. So either you can just close your browser, that would end the event for you, or you just click on leave event. Please do not click on end event for all. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So
So
everyone is host, so
hope
you can
everyone.
see
Yes.
everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can see everyone. Oh, we do have a lot of people left, so maybe we can start making them as hosts.
So just out of curiosity, right? How many times has someone clicked the close event
That
button?
happened last time. That
Even
happened last
we
time.
got screwed
So
up.
we
Yeah.
wanted to start just as I was saying, okay, let's start with our networking. We clicked the pictures, someone left the event, and it was done. And I didn't even finish my sentence.
You probably want to
So
save the recording as well at this point.
yeah. So no, the
Yeah.
recording gets saved automatically, but we don't get a chance to network with each other. Okay. So it's good to see people, even though we are not able to meet face to face. Okay. So please put your crazy faces, or shout out mule or meetup or anything you would like to do, and we'll click some pictures. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, go.
Hey.
So we'll click two more. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, now the last one, if you want to change your pose or I don't know, do anything crazy, just 1, 2, 3, go.
Hello.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so yeah, we would still keep 15 minutes in this meetup available. So people, if you want to speak to us, you can still stay on this event. We'll keep the line open for 15, 20 more minutes as long as we want to network. And people who
Ranjan,
are
I have a question. Can I ask out of the
absolutely,
box?
absolutely. So who is this speaking? I can't hear you.
Ravichalla. Ravichalla.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, actually, not it's not related to Mule 4. It's related to Mule 3.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my requests is I was migrating 3.8.5 to 3.9.4. So what happened? Huh? So it's work in local. So everything is working fine when I was migrated from 3.8.5 to 3.9.4. But unfortunately, when we deploy the API into server level, like EAT server level, we got end of the file issue we facing. So so when you run in the local debugging, everything is working fine. But
Mm-hmm.
when you run a test case, like error test case, if you run in the server level, we are facing UIF issue. Even
Mm-hmm.
like the UI issue coming at a GUI script only. In the GUI script, in the sense like it's not getting the payload, it's returning null payload.
Okay.
So
So
what is there any solution for that?
So honestly, because I don't have the full context, I won't be able to answer the whole thing for you. So what you can basically do is follow some debugging steps and some logging, have proper logging to see what are the steps which have been executed. The next thing, if you see this issue to be very persistent,
Mm-hmm.
you might, if you want, you can reach out to MuleSoft support by going to help.mulesoft.com, mulesoft.com and
Actually,
raising.
yeah, I reached to MuleSoft support team. They stopped the services from last number, this number, this November. They stopped the services
Okay.
and they stopped the packages and everything. They stopped it.
Okay, so could you just check with them what would be the next steps? Because this sounds to be a very, very technical problem which we won't be able to solve in this call, and it won't be the right forum to do it. So maybe you can feel free to reach out to support team, at least check with them, or reach out to MuleSoft sales team and check with them how they can help you out. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
there will be some help provided, but you just need to reach the right channels. Okay,
Okay, okay. And
cool.
one more thing,
Thank you. Mhm.
one more thing, so is there any end of the file issue, UIF issue? Like it has mentioned prologue, something it is coming. So
I'm
so
sorry, I won't be able to answer again because it's a
that's
very
okay. That's
specific
okay.
and very technical question for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's okay. That's okay.
But thank you for the question, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, hi everyone. Hi, Julian. Nice to see you. I see the other Julian who is not showing his video due to some reason.
Maybe GDPR.
Cool. No, it's not GDPR. Yeah, now he's showing his face. How you guys doing? And congratulations, Upendra, on being the winner.
Thanks.
Cool. And well, may I know where you guys are basically from in terms of geography? So maybe Francis, where you from?
I'm from the United Kingdom.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we do see a lot of diversity when we organize this meetup. We see people from. I mean, we have seen people even from South America, and there was some meetup where we got some people from the US, even though there was a big time zone difference. And at the same time, we have seen from the other side, from JPAC, some people joining in our meetup as well. So, and I think this is the one of the plus points of having a virtual one where you can have people across the globe joining in. Whereas when we used to have in the good times in-person meetups, it would be region specific because only a handful of us would join. But it's nice to have you all in the call.